Hi everyone, I'm Katie, an infant toddler Montessori teacher and registered early childhood educator. In today's video, I'm going to talk about why messy play is so good for toddler development, and I'm also going to share 5 messy play activities that the children in my classroom loved. Messy play is so good for toddler development because it's child-led. We, the adults, prepare the materials, and then the child uses the materials in a way that suits their needs and interests. Activities that are child-led help to build a child's self-esteem and develop their independence. You've likely heard me say before that young children are sensorial explorers. Dr. Montessori said, "The senses open the way to knowledge." Young children learn so much about the world around them when they're able to fully explore it. That's why Montessori classrooms include materials that can be safely explored with all of the senses. We want the children to explore the materials, and sometimes exploration can get a little messy. Here are 5 messy play activities that the children in my classroom loved. Stick around until the end of the video where I will share the developmental benefits of messy play. Activity number 1 is finger painting. I'll be honest here that the activity I put out was not finger painting. I always included paintbrushes anytime I prepared a painting activity for the children, but inevitably for some of the toddlers, they would not be interested in using the paintbrushes and they were more interested in using their hands. Studying Dr. Montessori really taught me the importance of following the child. So when I saw children covering their hands in paint, I stopped and I observed to see what it was that they were going to be doing with the paint all over their hands. Sometimes it got too messy for the classroom and I would have to put a gentle stop to it and we would have to tidy up. But more often than not, I would observe children really exploring the finger painting activity. I would see them moving the paint around with their hands, learning about what the paint felt like. I would observe that they were really paying attention to the colors mixing together. They were experimenting with how much paint to add. Yes, it was definitely messy, but I always felt like the pros outweighed the cons. Like I said earlier, children are sensorial explorers, so they were learning so much through this finger painting activity. And I like to look at every mess as an opportunity to develop practical life skills. We could always clean up the mess afterwards. As a little sidebar, what I will say is, as a person who likes things to be clean and organized, one of the ways that I learned to make messy play activities a little bit easier on myself was to prepare for the mess. Anticipate that there might be a mess. And I would do this by preparing a cleanup station ahead of time. So in the classroom, this would be, we had cloths available, we would have a mop available, we would have the sink close by. At home, you could make sure that there are extra clothes. You could even do these activities right before bath so that you can go directly into the bath afterwards. So when you're preparing activities that have the potential for being messy, it's helpful if you prepare for that mess. And maybe sometimes it doesn't get messy and you don't need to use any of those things, but I found that it's really helpful if you know that they're just right there and that you can grab them whenever needed. So the second messy play activity that the children loved were sensory bins. Now, I've mentioned in a previous video that sensory bins are technically not a part of the Montessori curriculum, but I definitely saw the benefit to developing children's fine motor skills and to help them with their self-regulation, so I chose to include one in my classroom. And what I love about them is that they're so easy to set up. All you need is a bin or a container and then some loose parts. You could use rocks, you can use dried legumes, you could use leaves, you could use just about anything that you have around the house. And add some tools to that and you've got an activity with endless learning opportunities. Again, you want to make sure that you have a broom and a dustpan nearby to help them to sweep up any of the loose parts that spill over the sides. But I found that when I first introduced sensory bins, they did tend to get quite messy. After some practice and after the children sort of figured out to keep everything contained in the bin, the messes decreased quite significantly. And if you're looking for ideas of what to put in a sensory bin, we do have a sensory bin guide available on our website, and I will link to it in the description below. Hey, I just wanted to interrupt and say that we have a store, if you didn't already know. We sell a variety of Montessori materials, open-ended toys, and children's furniture, and it's quick and easy to order them online. We also have a store located on Danforth Avenue if you would prefer to shop in person. We'd love it if you stop by, but for now, let's get back to the video. All right, the next activity is an outdoor activity, and it is digging outside. So anytime we were doing a gardening activity or if we were taking a trip to our local park, I observed that many of the toddlers chose to spend their time digging. They wanted to explore the soil, the sand, whatever it was that was covering the ground where we were playing. So I learned very quickly on these outings to never leave school grounds without a couple of shovels. Now we have shovels available here at the Montessori room. Here is an example of a shovel, some shovels and a little rake. I will link to those in the description below. But think about all there is to learn when it comes to digging. It might just seem like, again, it's a messy play activity. What are they learning? But they're learning so much. They're digging, they're getting that experience of feeling the soil on their hands. They're building those fine motor skills. They're exploring what it is that lives in the soil. Perhaps they're going to come across some insects, maybe some rocks, maybe some seeds. I can't say enough about how many learning opportunities there are outdoors. The outdoors is really the perfect classroom, in my opinion. The next activity that I have for you is another outdoor activity, and it is playing outside during or after the rain. I know that it can be tempting to stay inside on rainy days, but I encourage you to, on a light rain day or after a rainfall, to go outside and invite your child to explore. My old classroom, the door opened up to a gated area where the children were able to play outdoors. And so on a light rain day or after the rain, I would open the door and I would invite the toddlers that I could see maybe needed a little bit of movement. I would invite them to go outside and run in the rain for a little while. Now, I wouldn't do this in a downpour or in a thunderstorm, of course, but light rain days were really some of my favorite days in the classroom. I'd also suggest getting some rain gear and getting out there and doing some puddle jumping. Puddle jumping is, I don't know that I've really seen joy on children's faces as much as I've seen when they are, invited to jump in puddles. I feel like oftentimes they hear to avoid the puddles because maybe they're not properly dressed, but get the right gear and invite them to jump in the puddles. Puddle jumping is, like I said, it's a blast for children, but there's also so much to learn. Puddle jumping teaches children about cause and effect. They learn that they jump in the puddle and it splashes. They're causing that effect. They learn to experiment. If I jump really hard with both of my feet, it makes a big splash. What can I do with my body to make just a little splash? Puddle jumping invites them to ask questions about the weather, and it also is a great activity for developing gross motor skills. Who would have thought that a child could learn so much from playing in the rain and jumping in the puddles? All right, for my final activity, this one is definitely hands down the most popular messy play activity in the classroom, year after year after year. And again, it didn't start out as a messy play activity, but it just inevitably evolved into that, and that was any time that we were baking. So you can imagine baking with 10 toddlers had its challenges, but once I learned what the toddlers needed in that experience, it became much less stressful for me and more enjoyable for them. And what I realized was they needed to explore. They wanted to explore what it was that we were doing. They were not focused on the end result. I could sit there and say, children, we're making banana bread today. They weren't thinking about the banana bread. They were thinking about the ingredients in front of them that we were going to be mixing together to make the banana bread. So what I would do is, if any of the children that were sitting around the table, is I would sprinkle some of the ingredients in front of them, the ones that are safe, of course. So I would sprinkle some of the ingredients in front of each of them so that while they were waiting for their turn to stir, they were able to engage in this sensorial exploration of the ingredients. So they explored things like flour, cocoa powder, salt, sugar, oats, any sort of dry ingredient that you're using that you're comfortable with them exploring. I would encourage you to allow them to explore that. At home, you could even provide them with a small bowl and a spoon so that they could mix their own ingredients. It's really helpful to remember with toddlers that they're so much more focused on the process than they are the product. They want to have the experience of the activity. They're not so interested in the final product. So a bonus activity that I'll include here is Play-Doh. I'm not going to get into any sort of detail with Play-Doh because there's already a video on our channel that speaks about all of the benefits of Play-Doh. I will link to that video in the description below, but it's called Play-Doh is Serious Work, Why Play-Doh is Great for Kindergarten Prep. So check that out if you're interested. And then finally, here we are at the end of the video. Here are the developmental benefits of messy play. Messy play fosters cognitive development. It introduces math and science concepts in a really fun and child-led way, develops and strengthens fine motor skills. Messy play promotes creativity and curiosity, and as mentioned earlier, it fosters independence. Because messy play is technically child-led, it is an incredible opportunity for independent play. Simply set your child up with materials that are open-ended and safe for them to use on their own, and then sit back and you will see their focus and their concentration grow. All right, that's it for today. I hope you found today's video helpful, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, it really helps our channel if you like and subscribe. This helps other parents to find our channel. And if you have a question, feel free to comment your question below and we'll answer it in a future video. Take care. Bye.